Hi everyone, welcome to episode 4 of the Builders Bench podcast. Thanks for joining us again. I'd like to say thanks, just before we get into the episode, I'd like to say thanks to Perception Windows for supporting the podcast. Without you guys, the podcast can't, it helps us become bigger, have more guests, and it's just keeps us progressing, of course. So we have a great guest today. It is Leigh Molden from Insurance Advisor Net, and he's going to talk about how important it is to have insurance. And dropping by, we've got Cameron. He's actually my brother and the second director of Seabuilt as a late blow-in, and we'll debrief on a little bit of the situation. This could become a bit of a weekly topic. Cameron's debrief. Enjoy the episode. Hi everyone, welcome to episode 4 of the Builders Bench podcast, brought to you by Seabuilt Properties. Really excited to have a great guest on today, Leigh Molden from Insurance Advisor Net. Leigh, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me, Clint.
And I know it was late notice too, so you're always reliable in terms of that, so thank you.
Always happy to make time for you and Cam.
That's good, mate. That's good to know. Leigh's going to give us some insight into how important it is to have good insurance and have a good insurance broker like Leigh, backing a business, or even if it is sort of lifestyle, public liability or anything like that. Doesn't even have to be a business, but particularly as a company, insurance or building company especially, insurance is so important. There's a background to Leigh and how we actually formed a relationship from the start, and we actually built Leigh's home. Family home that he's still in. It's still looking fantastic,
Immaculate.
Standing the test of time. That was 12 years ago.
It was, 12 and a half.
Yeah, and it's still looking nice. Terracotta tiles on there. They haven't faded. And when you still drive through that street, you can still tell that it's a Seabuilt home.
It is. And we're getting to the point where maybe in the next 10 years, we might actually get you back to put the second story on.
Oh, you said that ages ago. And
Yeah.
That just
It was a 10-year plan, and then we're 12 and a half years in, and now it might be another 10 years.
Yeah, we said a kitchen renovation.
Yeah.
I remember you talking about the second story, and to be honest, actually, going on from that, we've actually had a bit of a few plans, or we've found a few inquiries come through for second story renovation. So I think that might be the next biggest thing.
Out here, definitely, I think.
Because there's no blocks, really.
No. And I know for our block personally that if we were to go and buy it again now, it's going to cost double what we
100%.
paid for our land initially, and then to build it through you guys.
Exactly right. So, and talking about that, I mean, it was 12 years ago. Do you remember the contract price for that build?
282.
282.
Yeah, exactly. And thereabouts. And we know, so I think we know we could have opted for volume builder, but in comparison to our neighbours, we had two builds side by side with one of the volume builders. I think one of them had 5 supervisors in 6 months.
Yeah.
Our biggest issue was, I think, with a cabinet in our ensuite.
Yeah.
And it was the way that we wanted it.
Yeah.
It was sorted.
Yeah.
Cam sorted it out. And I think one thing that I noticed, and I remember telling people at the time, like, cleanest site I've ever seen. We'd go there regularly, check it out. Cam just had the broom out, sweeping the slab. I'm like, it was great to see.
Cam was good on the broom back then, and he sort of died off a little bit.
Promotion, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's good. I mean, $282,000. That is so cheap. When I look at you probably see the cost of our builds come through, because I will say Leigh handles our building insurance, which is now, it's now gone to the VMIA. So he used to, how long ago did it switch?
Well, so the warranty, I think that sort of switched about 5 years ago. Now there's certain distributors, so we can still access it, but they basically gave the ability for builders to log into. Yeah. So we obviously still look after the general insurance side. But in terms of contract values, for the ones that I do still see, there's another builder, and he's like prices used to be in the 6 to 8s, and he's doing 1.2 to 1.6 now.
It's doubled. Yeah. So it is doubled. And that is exactly the same as us. Like it's 282 is now gone to double in the past 10 years. And it's like, where does it stop? You know, that's the question that everyone is going to answer. everyone wants to know, like, where is this going to stop? Like, it is the price of living at the moment. And you know, if this keeps going up, then how is it going to be achievable? How's it going to be achievable for the younger generation to keep going?
Yeah.
That's aside the fact. We'll talk about insurance. Yeah. We're here to talk about insurance. So, I mean, that's another thing. So, recently we've all noticed that builders have been in trouble. Liquidations have been happening. How do you see it, or how does insurance advisor net see it? Like, is it getting better? Is it getting worse? Is it happening? Is it real? Is all the ads in the paper quite true? What dramas are you noticing in terms of the insurance game?
In terms of, builders going under, I think that's been largely publicised. There is, I recall years ago, and this one, when I was employed before starting my own business, but this builder would probably just, and we spoke about this yesterday, and the reason why successful builders know how to manage cash flow. And I think managing cash flow in business is just the key to any business, because if you look at what you're spending and look at what your income is, if you can manage that side of it, you can tend to grow a pretty good and successful business.
Really, it's pretty simple. Don't spend more money
than you actually have.
That's actually coming in. You know?
In terms of liquidations, I know not any of my broker colleagues personally within our group have been affected drastically by that. They, I think the good builders will always survive. And if I can use CBuild as the example, you've always got that continual flow of work. You know what you can do within a certain time frame. Your pipeline is well set up so that there's not too much downtime in between jobs. And obviously in construction and trade, it can be heavily weather dependent. So there are certain times where you're probably at home, maybe focusing on plans or doing other things like that. But those builders who are running a good business will be able to see it through. But the flip side of all these liquidations and some of the major builders having to get bailed out is that something like the cost of warranty, which is purchased by the builder on behalf of the homeowner, that's gone up 63% at the start of this month. So
and all up, I think, I mean, when I look back, because that wasn't the first leap. I mean, there was 70%, I think it was a 70% increase, what was that, 2 years ago? Something. So what is that? Almost 140, almost 140% increase. Now, like, it's now, unfortunately, like, the consumer pays.
Gets passed on.
The only way to get out of this mess is to unfortunately charge the good builders who have been around, who are still operating, who have run a tight ship, and they're a good reputable builder, and their cash flow is good, is to actually charge them more in insurance just to be able to get out of it. I figure that's the only way that's the reason why it's done.
I think that's just a general rule of thumb with any form of expenditure in our state at the moment too, that unfortunately nothing in life is for free, but to have that passed on to the consumer, because usually that initial 5% deposit, not only did it cover warranty, it might cover some initial permits, plans, maybe even the bonus of getting some materials for those early works on a residential development. Well, now I'd say the bulk of that is probably going to be eaten up by the cost in warranty.
That's exactly right. So preliminary prices have then gone up. They've gone up, skyrocketed. How's it going to be fixed? Does it mellow out? I don't know. I think surely there's not going to be any more price rises in terms of insurance.
We'd hope not. It's in a bit of the whole insurance industry has probably been in a hard market for the last few years, and what's affected that is the fact that since October 2019, there were bushfires in the mid-north coast of New South Wales. They rolled into floods. Then we've rolled into more storms, cyclones, hailstorms. So we're a country that just historically in the last 4 or 5 years has had a catastrophe almost every 3 to 6 months.
That's very true.
And then what that then affects is that your everyday insurance, you pay for that. Your insurance pays for everyday claims. So, but when there's a catastrophe, all the major insurers will buy reinsurance. So they'll go and buy it from a company like Swiss Reinsurance or Munich Reinsurance, and they'll buy something ridiculous like, let's say, 60 billion in reinsurance for when there's a catastrophe hit. So we're going to dip into this pool. But over the last few years, not only has the cost on that per million that they buy increased, so it might have gone from 10 to 20 to 40, 50 cents. Now the insurers who used to have a 15-year, say, payback, return on that, let's say they're buying 50 million, now they're being asked to get that their reinsurance money back in 3 years.
Wow.
So we were told that by a major insurer a couple of years ago, and when I heard that makes sense to me why some rates have just gone absolutely skyrocketed. And where does this come from?
Yeah.
But we feel that the wheel might be starting to turn a bit too. So the opposite of a hard market is obviously a soft. And when there's a soft market, premiums can tend to come down. And there might be more insurers who come to the party, new insurers or underwriting agencies within the market who will come in and try and take market share by offering low prices too. So we feel that shift might start.
Competitiveness might come in and start shifting.
Yeah.
It has to. I mean, it has to come in not only insurance, it has to come into every industry for it to shift.
Yeah, because it's up there. Insurance sits up pretty high behind wages, just your standard taxes and work cover. So that is like it's probably within the top 5 cost for a business. Insurance, and it's one of the most important things because a business should have, because you don't get yourself into business to think, well, shit, if something happens to me, okay, well, what am I going to do? Shut up shop, or am I going to transfer that risk to someone else? Like you want to be able to help. We want to help people sleep at night.
All right, sorry to interrupt the episode, but I just want to say thanks to our major sponsor, Perception Windows, for these episodes. As you can see, beautiful window, 5mm thick glass, 512/5 awning windows, commercial type or residential type. They are inline profiles, so no rebate, and the beautiful window, nice and solid. So we love working with Perception. I think a lot of it was scare tactics as well. Like, I mean, I've said this in the last few episodes that there's scare tactics. I mentioned off air that I was receiving emails from people saying, I'll give you a headline of one of the ads was tradie exodus, construction sector apocalypse looms. You know, like, and when you read that, you're like, what the hell is going on here?
It sucked you in to read it, didn't it? That is it's the perfect clickbait.
So, you know, it was everywhere in the news. So hopefully that sort of mellowed down a little bit, as you said. Everything starts to shift, prices start to shift, market starts to shift, and hopefully we're in the right path in terms of, especially insurance premiums as well. I will say, like, as I said, it's so important to have a good insurance, good insurance cover in general, but also a good insurance broker like Leigh. Also someone to just call, like, rather than speak to an operator, but you could just call Leigh. Like, we've known Leigh for a very long time, so it is a good relationship. We've got a relationship outside of insurance. But, you know, I'll give you one example. If you, I mean, we've had many issues, issues.
It's been
on the
okay.
job site.
It's not.
It hasn't been too bad.
Okay.
But vandalism, a brick go through the window.
Yeah.
Was it 2 bricks or 1 brick?
I can't remember. I think some of the humorous ones that I've seen and use an example in construction is temporary fencing getting stolen. Like, who has the time to go there and then take down temporary fencing when you probably pay...
That was on my house, on my block. I think I was away, and I came back one weekend and all of it was gone.
Yeah,
including the feet.
I find it kind of humorous. Well, it's humorous to me that people would actually take the time to rock up there with a truck, and it's not something like a quick snatch and grab.
Nah,
it is. There's time in that.
Yeah. So there was that. There was a brick through the window, or maybe a couple of bricks through the window. There was tools. I mean, all of these things is just like, if that happens, call Leigh. Stolen tools. If that happens, call Leigh. Bingle on the car. Hey, Leigh. You know, I've done this. Get it sorted out. And just and another too, like I will mention, and we won't go too far in depth with it, but Leigh probably knows exactly the story behind it. But accidents on the job site, so it could be public liability.
Yep.
And we've had one case that was pretty traumatic. And when you hear about that, and you get a phone call hearing that a serious accident has happened on one of the builds houses that you've built. Every single build we build to a code, and there was, I know for a fact this one was when it was the building code of Australia, not the NCC. So these are the newest updated ones. So there was a huge grey period of the building code was very vague. It was very basic. It was very vague. So it's definitely been improved for insurance purposes and for everyone's knowledge. Now, when you hear about this traumatic story, it definitely, you have sleepless nights and you get concerned. Is it my fault? But when you have a good backed insurance broker like yourself to actually talk to, who's knowledgeable in terms of what's going on, then you can get sleep at night at least. And you're covered. So that's just purely public liability wise. And things do happen. Like accidents do happen.
Yeah.
Stairs. I mean, you can just trip down a set of stairs.
Yep.
Anywhere. So just to be backed by good public liability is important. Another one too is I've got another story of I think it was my dad in his business. I think it was a few years ago that a plasterboard fell on a person. Yeah, and killed him. So he was backed.
That was a different one to the one I remembered.
Really?
Hence my little chuckle reaction, because I thought it was a different one.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that changes everything.
Yeah.
So it was actually the owner of the house that walked onto the job site. And this is why it's so important as an owner to not just go onto the job site. You need to be with someone. You need to be with a supervisor or a director.
You need a proper induction, because on any site that you work, and you're about to chat to your brickie too, but every single job site where you've got your brickie, your sparky, your plumber, they have to be inducted onto that site. So it's no different to a member of the public, be that the actual owner or a prospective person that you're actually looking to build with. So just because they do it, it's well documented what unions might do in terms of their swims and induction. Well, that doesn't change just because you're only doing one house or a multi-unit job.
That's right. And the jobs are open. We can't just completely, put secured fencing all the way around it. As you said, we've just got temporary fencing. Like you can. That's up to you if you want to make that decision to go onto the job site, but the risk is on you, And in this particular instance, it was the owner of the house, and how unfortunate for the family. The owner was crushed by it because the plasterboard was leaning up on the wall, and he just, I don't know what he did with it, but it just fell straight onto him, and he was unfortunately killed. But I mean, that was like a decade ago. Public liability, thank God, was around back then too. Yeah. I think now it's just progressed, and just everyone's. I think insurance companies have learnt out of this, builders have learnt out of this, and it just progresses over time. Cover just progresses.
And it can also get restricted too. It usually only takes one major event to change insurance, and go back to the start of the century. It was SARS, and then we had COVID a couple of years ago, but probably more talking to building is the Grenfell Tower and all the aluminium composite cladding and the panels there. So now things are where some occupations in the construction and trade, which have found that their insurance prices going up, is architects, engineers, building inspectors and surveyors, and there are conditions now on almost every professional indemnity policy that have non-conforming building products exclusion. So you've got to use products that actually comply within the country. Because you even go back to that bungled home insulation scheme. I've heard stories of someone having some electrical work done in their house, and they were wondering why a room was so cold, and then they just pretty much gone up and sat the insulation just outside the manhole and in this whole front room, in a house, they're like, well, that explains why it's cold. There's no insulation there.
Right.
So,
Yeah. So, well, that was a big disaster.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll leave it at that.
So, look, thanks, Leigh, for coming on.
Welcome. Thanks for having me.
Gives us a good insight of insurance, and as I said, how important it is to be backed by a good insurance company or a broker. Leigh, where do we find Insurance Advisor Net, or where do we find your contact details?
So if you just Google Insurance Advisor Net Doreen, I'll come up here. I'll come up there, I should say, just located in the shops in Lorimer here. And just benefits of a broker is that we actually work for our clients. We don't work for the insurers.
Yep.
We're here to act on our clients first and foremost.
Yep.
And we have relationships with insurers to ensure that they understand the businesses that we're wanting to place policies with on our clients' behalf.
Yeah, very good. Personal relationship, and that's the best thing about it. As I said, Leigh's a phone call away, and that's very important in business. So, very good, mate. Thanks. You. Footy team, hobbies?
Colin.
I know you're a runner. I see you running around Doreen all the time.
Love
you get
running.
Me motivated.
That's good. That's good. No, love my fitness, running, training at the gym.
Yep.
Go to the footy. Coach my son's basketball team, under 8s, which is awesome.
Go Phantoms.
Go Phantoms. And also being an office worker, I just like for me getting my hands dirty, and it's like gardening. I get such a reward out of looking at a freshly mown lawn, and I love my cooking. So you can find me just talking absolute bullshit on Instagram every now and then, just entertaining myself. But it's the main. It's if it gets a laugh for some people, then I've achieved my goal. So.
Well, I'll tell you what's going to get some laughs.
Yes.
The budgie smugglers.
The budgies, yeah. Should we put them on?
Pop them on, get a photo. Stay tuned. G'day, guys. We've just had someone just barge straight in through the doors and started rambling on. We were talking about the old days, and we were just having a good laugh. So we figured, let's get him on. And welcome to the show, Cam. Director.
This is all new to me. What we were speaking about just before with the boys was, people don't want to listen about today and how everything's watered down. The footy's watered down. Politicians are watered down. It's all a corporate game now. The building industry's watered down. We were just having a laugh before about what it used to be when we first started in the building industry, and it'd be good if we could get some people that may come on here who are older, who
Marty.
or Tony Coco.
I mean, mate, Marty shared some good points back in the day, but things were just a little bit more simple.
Oh, they were way simple.
But like even just off air, we were talking about the brickies. The brickies smashed a bourbon at what was it, like 10 o'clock in the morning on one of our jobs. I mean, it's probably about 10 years
earlier.
ago. I had a phone call from the electrician saying, and it was like, mate, he's just down necked a bourbon. And I'm like, yeah, well, is there an issue? Okay. He's like, is that right?
There was so much.
The way it is.
There was so much freedom back then. Like it was like you'd go onto the job site and I don't smoke, but it just smell of Winnie Blues. Everyone was smoking. They were working and smoking. And then guys were straight away. They were drinking on the site. Like it was 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock. I remember when I first started working. Lunchtime, it'd be go down to the bottle shop, it'd be a 6-pack.
Yeah. Well, I remember I was, because Danny, you were talking about rocking on the job as a plasterer, and you had no idea the first day. I did that before carpentry, and I worked as a labourer plasterer. And we picked up, there was a guy named Barry from the Bush, right? Barry from the Bush.
Yeah.
And everyone, if you're in the north, you know Barry from the Bush. Tony Coco, Apex Constructions, AB, ANF
You used to work for our dad.
Right?
It used to be,
So Barry from the Bush, we picked him up from a job site, right? And he slept in the bath that night.
Yeah.
He slept in the bath. I said to Dad, and this was at 6 a.m, I said, Dad, what are we doing? He goes, I'm picking up Barry. What do you mean? Well, he slept in the bathtub last night. Okay.
There were so many...
I go, Dad, are you sure he's not going to crack cans at 9 o'clock in the morning? Sure, no, he'll be fine. He's a bloody good worker when he gets started. And then, sure enough, I think it was about 9 a.m. He went down to Bottle, grabbed 10 VBs, and I called Dad up. I go, Dad, he's cracked a VB. It's 10 o'clock in the morning. What do I do now? Oh, just make yourself look busy. All right, I'll just bloody make myself look busy.
Yeah, Barry.
And that was it.
Barry was he was famous back then. I mean, he lived underneath the Greensboro RSL. Before they'd renovated. So if you remember what the old Greensboro RSL was, he lived underneath.
Yeah, and they couldn't kick him out.
Because
he basically, yeah, didn't they? I don't think it was like they tried to get rid of him, but he couldn't.
No,
they couldn't get rid
Well,
of
what
him.
happened was he made like back then, it was 20 years ago. He was making like $100,000 a year because he worked hard.
They didn't pay
and that
GST.
was a lot of money. And he didn't pay any GST. So the ATO were after him and they said, listen, you got to pay your GST. And Barry was like, fuck it, well, take it. I don't have a house. You can't take anything. I live underneath the RSL. He was classic. He another guy that we know, an old builder, Alan Brazese, had a scanner back in the day. He'd have a scanner and listen to the police scans. And one time he was listening to his scanner, it was at night, and he heard this commotion. There's something going on in this site, this house that's being built. There's people in there, and Alan goes, oh, and then they got to the address. He goes, that's my job, and so Alan goes down there, gets in the car, drives down there. It was Barry from the Bush. He was sleeping in the bathtub.
Sleeping in the bathtub. Yeah, like that was his home. What about the story? He got knocked out of the bloody. He walked to Bonnie Doon.
Yeah, he walked to Mansfield because he had no license.
He got kicked out. Because he slept the night in a tree log.
Yeah.
And a wombat kicked him out.
Yeah. they were the type
but
of guys.
But that was it. They were the trades back then.
What's the difference being apprentice then versus apprentice now?
I mean, now, back then you just walked in and it was like, what am I?
Yeah, it was exactly what Danny said.
It was like walking into another world. It was just,
there
was no rules, there was no real regulations. It was just do what the boss says.
And it was one word, and that was it. You're in the car, and it's one word for every 20 minutes, and it was you the one who had to make conversation, and it was basically like you do your job, and that's it. And there was no, there was no standing on eggshells or being careful on what you say. It was just like it was just like you get it. This is your problem, and that's it. And you run with it the whole day. So if you're in a bad mood in the morning with your boss, you're taking that all the way through the day, and it's just like horrendous throughout the whole day. Maybe even the week. That's the way it was. But now it's like, well,
but that was just how
you've got to be so careful.
But that was just how it was, though. Like you accepted that, so it wasn't really like you could. It's hard to compare because what the kids know now is what they know now. You know, if you take them back in time, like you could even say we could go back in time. We could go back in time to the 1940s, and we're 18-year-olds trying to shoot Japanese or Germans in a war. Like we had no hearing protection. Like every generation as we go is just like it's getting soft. Like everyone's getting softer, and that's the facts. Like we were soft compared to the generation before us. So. The problem is how soft do we get until like it's just everything.
We can't get anything achieved.
Well, until everything becomes so boring. Everything's becoming boring. You don't have the Barry from the bushes anymore. You don't have, the larrikins and the laughs and the freedom like you used to have. It's all being just
taken away.
And everyone can see that. It's all been taken away. Everyone can see every facet of everything. The footy, everything.
Yeah.
Politics. Politicians can't say what they really feel.
Oh, well, that's Cam's debrief for the week.
There you go.
So there you go. Tune
Everyone
in
can
for the
get
next debrief. I quickly might add, we're brothers, and he's the other business partner.
I'm the youngest one.
Yeah, right.
I don't even wear the apparel. Like I rock up to work, I'm wearing Cam Print stuff.
Yeah, but well, there's a shout out, Cam Print. This is the hats.
Yeah, shout out
everything.
to Cam Print. He's a mate of mine. He gives me all these free T-shirts. If you want any T-shirts done or for your business, go down and see him.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.